Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Mindful Elevation Discussion, where we're going to have another interesting topic. We are in actually, we're not in the month anymore of the mental health awareness, but like I indicated before, we're going to continue with bringing information and bringing topics that have to do with our mental well being and how we can take care of it. So tonight we're going to be talking about the topic narcissist and codependency. And for that, we have our guest, which is Dana Humphrey. And with her, we're going to be talking about the ins and outs, what it is, what you can do, how you can work on yourself, and all that entails. Dana, welcome.
Thank
How are
you.
you
Great.
doing? Thank you for accepting my invitation to be part of the show and for us to be talking about this topic.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. So, can we start with you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. I'm originally from California and was living and working in California and got a degree in public relations. And then I moved to New York City and started a PR firm specializing in the pet industry. And along the way, I've been an entrepreneur. I have a trade show. I'm a professor. I started a choir. I've done lots of different things. But the purpose of today's conversation, um, I the last relationship that I was in, I realized after doing a lot of research that I had a pattern of dating narcissists. And after doing a lot of research about narcissism, I realized that instead of continuing to point the finger out at what are my patterns and who am I dating and what are they doing, I had to like really look and see what was going on with myself. So after a lot of research and a lot of years of healing, I um, have learned a lot about codependency and a lot about narcissism, and I'm happy to talk about it tonight. And I started a life coaching business about a year ago. I'm launching a book in November. It's a memoir about my story, and that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you. It's a mouthful. You have been doing a lot, so really really nice, and especially because you said based on what you went through, you went to do research and try to see what exactly it is, how to do it, and yeah. So I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Why do you? How come you find it important to be talking about this topic?
I think there's a lot of information that people can learn from about this. I think codependency is something that's really prevalent in our society right now, and so is narcissism. And I think after having Trump in presidency, there's this word kind of thrown around a lot, but there's actually some specific things that it means, and I think it's important to understand. Um, there is, like you mentioned, mental health component, which in the DSM-5, which is basically the tool that therapists use to diagnose someone, there is something called narcissistic personality disorder. And that's a specific thing where you have to have, a certain amount of criteria to be diagnosed as narcissistic personality disorder. And then there's narcissistic traits, or there's narcissistic characteristics that might be, someone might be exhibiting. So they're kind of two different things. There's the, mental health diagnosis, which is very hard to, actually diagnose a narcissist because they typically aren't looking for answers for that. Um, but something that I found really important in my search is just to also understand that narcissism and codependency are two sides of the same coin, and they go together. And so once you discover maybe patterns of your own codependency, that's a good opportunity to see that you might be attracted or have been attracted to narcissists in the past, or vice versa. If you maybe are thinking you're dating a narcissist or maybe married a narcissist and you're starting to have these little red flags of awareness, it's important to understand how they go together.
Okay. what are the characteristics? What is a narcissist? What are the characteristics of a narcissist?
So there's a few different types of narcissists, but in general, some things to look out for are, um, people who use the word "but" a lot. They tend to be narcissists tend to, like to argue. They tend to be, lawyers in profession. Um, when they say a statement, they'll say something. Well, maybe you'll say something, and they say, "Well, sure, but." So they're agreeing with you, but they're actually contradicting you. So using "but" a lot is kind of like a little signal that you can perk up to and think, okay, what are they actually saying when they say "but"? Are they, actually going against what the person said? A lot of times they can be very decorated. So, they have a very fragile ego. And so they want to really appear very beautiful. So they are very concerned with outward appearance. And that can show up in a lot of different ways. That could show up with the car, the house, the job, um, or physical appearance, where, being really adorned with a lot of jewelry and a lot of expensive designer labels. Um, and so those are some of the things that you can kind of look for.
Okay, okay. And because you said that the narcissist and person that is codependent, that goes hand in hand. And if you realize that you are codependent, then you have to go and see if maybe in your relationship you had to deal with a narcissist. How it is? Okay, so you said that somebody that uses the word "but" a lot, and then of course depending of how they're using it, and if it is that they're trying to kind of like overpower you or going in an argument. um because me myself, I'm trying to understand exactly how it works, and then how it is that it's kind of like hand in hand.
Okay,
Because I
so
mean, for example, a narcissist, are you born like that, or is it because of your environment that you turn into one?
okay, so you just asked a few different questions. I'll try to remember all of the details. So there's different opinions on whether you're born that way, or nature versus nurture, right? Are you born that way, or is it an environment that you're raised in? Typically, when you're a child, we go through a phase where we are in a narcissistic phase, where everything's about us. When we cry, we need something. When we have a problem, we need something, and we need our caretakers to actually respond to us in a very devoted way. And sometimes when they don't do that, the child never grows out of that stage. And so a narcissist essentially is an adult child. They feel like, why me? They feel like they never really grew out of that phase because they maybe didn't ever get that attention and love that they needed as a child. It doesn't really make an excuse for that, but it can be something like that. Um, Something that Dr. Ross Rosenberg has coined is something called the human magnet syndrome. And the idea is that, um, a whole person, someone who is completely whole, they love themselves, they're completely accepted themselves, they are whole, and they can go out in the world and have a relationship with another whole person. When a narcissist and a codependent get together, they make a whole together. So they become enmeshed. So you could almost look at it like a -1 and a +1, and together they make zero, which makes a whole. And so there's different kind of levels or depths that someone could be in that then is attracted to the other person. So he talks about a +5 and a -5 being kind of the top of the scale. So depending on how much self-loathing you have, self-hatred, things like that, you maybe are less than whole, and so you're attracting that person that matches you on the other side of the magnet. Um, and so that's why sometimes we get into these patterns, right? And that's how a pattern is created, is that we are um, let's say less than whole, whether it's a -1 or a -2, and we continue to kind of get into these relationships, even though the people may be look very different on the outside. It's this energetic attraction that happens. Um, Let me think what else you said. There was one more piece to your question that I'm forgetting now.
It's okay. We will at one point we will get back to it. But then a codependent person, is that the same as narcissist in that sense that it can be the environment that a person becomes a codependent person
So
because they
I
were
think
lacking things?
yes, right. A codependent relies on the other person. So um, a great example that's kind of easy to understand. The thing is, it's um, narcissists are very smart, and they often are all about strategy, so they're constantly working in their mind how they can like get the other person. So it's about control. It's very much about control. A narcissist maybe would be someone who's really good at chess or really good at Scrabble, like really good at mind games, like figuring things out and playing it well. So for example, with my example that I said with like the word but, it's like pretending to be polite and cordial, but actually placing a dig in the other person. So they're kind of like always out to position themselves up on a pedestal and everyone else is below them because their self confidence is so low. The example I wanted to share with you is like an alcoholic and an enabler. Okay, so often an alcoholic could be the narcissistic person that's and addiction is often in place in these types of dynamics as well, or these types of relationships. In a codependent narcissistic relationship, it's very often that there's going to be drugs and alcohol involved. And so if you look at like someone who's an alcoholic and someone who's an enabler, they go really well together. And this could be a narcissist codependent relationship. It doesn't always have to be, but that's a kind of easy example to look for. So the alcoholic is relying on outside substances to feel better about themselves, and the enabler doesn't want to focus on themselves, so they're place all of their worry on the other person. So an enabler is, the spouse who, is constantly like, where are you? When are you coming home? And like their whole life revolves around the alcoholic and their problems. And so in a lot of ways, they actually enable the behavior because they tolerate it. They maybe even support the person. The codependent maybe feels better about themselves by being able to make enough money to support themselves and the alcoholic or whatever. There's lots of variations that could be involved there. But it's, having the codependent is interested in looking outside of themselves for validation. And so is the narcissist. And so that's where it kind of becomes this dance of, how they get magnetized to each other.
Hmm. And you mentioned something, that narcissists are often smart. And is it that they smart from small, or is it that they kind of like became smart because they have to constantly, like you said, playing the different scenarios in their mind, and the mindset that they having, how they can control other people or how they can control the situation, um, to benefit themselves.
Yeah. So narcissists are master manipulators. They've learned from a very young age that if they need to get what they want or what they need, they have to manipulate someone to get it. Because they were not taken care of in the normal, loving way that you would maybe want someone to be raised. So they have really developed their psyche and their ability to strategize and to look their best to get what they want or get what they need. And so they're always in a control dynamic. They are trying to control the situation, they're trying to control other people. And also, in a different way, the codependent is also playing the same game. They're also manipulating, but they're manipulating from a place of people pleasing. They want people to like them. They want people to be their friend. They want people to validate them. So they're the what. So the
Mm-hmm.
codependent is always endlessly giving, and always providing, and never says no. And so that's a perfect person for a narcissist who wants to be with someone who always says yes, because they think they're really important. Their ego's so fragile that they need someone that yeses them all the time. So it kind of like comes together of this like perfect little match. And so, if you're so if someone's been out there thinking like, oh, it's always like I've been with all these narcissists, look at them. You have to look at yourself of like how, um, you know, as a codependent, have you been manipulating people by saying, oh, like let me give some cookies to the neighbor, and so that maybe they'll watch my cat next week, right? It's like this conditional relationship. You're not just bringing cookies to the neighbor because you love to make cookies and you have a bunch and you want to share them. It's coming from this place of reciprocity where you have an expectation of getting something in return. Like if I'm just nice and I
Mm-hmm.
give and I give and I give, people will be nice to me and I'll get what I want and what I need instead of just being direct and
Yeah.
asking for it. So it's manipulation on both sides.
Mm-hmm. That must be really exhausting. That you always have to think, okay, what can be the benefit for me, or what can I get out of it, or how can I manipulate the situation? It seems like you constantly busy with that instead of, I don't know, trying to have a different type of relationship. And
Yeah.
so, but then even because you said that narcissist codependent often goes together, but so then kind of like a narcissist will continue searching, for a lack of word, searching till they find someone that is kind of like codependent, because
Okay.
how they
So
would react. Mhm. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So basically, narcissists need something called narcissistic supply. So they're constantly looking for people to give them supply, and it could be lovers, friends, neighbors, teachers, classmates. They'll get it from whoever they can get it from. Narcissists are often, in open or polyamorous relationships. They want to have as many people that are giving them back this positive feedback and supplying them as possible. Um, so, yes, they are constantly on the hunt, basically, for people that will be serving them in some way. And codependents are looking to serve. So they eventually they find each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As a person that um, is not codependent, um, I mean, you explain what codependent is, and I can imagine that if you're honest with yourself, you will realize that you are one. But then, let's say you are not one, and you happen to meet a narcissist, or um, like friendship. How you will have to deal with a person like that, or how
So
the dynamic will work then.
okay, so someone that's codependent is maybe a perfectionist, maybe has anxiety, could be a little bit neurotic, like double checking things to make sure that it's perfect or accurate or correct or right. Maybe like some things like OCD, like just really uh, occupied on doing things right or doing things the right way because they're worried about what other people think about them. Um, so those sometimes a person who's codependent can feel invisible. They feel like they're never being seen. They can be needy, right? A needy person. Um, And so that neediness is like wanting this external validation of like needing to be,
Mm-hmm.
getting things from other people. I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
what was the other part of your question?
That if you are not a codependent person, but
With a
you,
friendship with a narcissist. Yeah.
yes, uh-huh.
So this kind of I think this ties into attachment theory. There's kind of like three types of attachment styles. There's avoidant attachment, anxious attachment, anxious avoidant. You could be both, and securely attached. So if somebody is secure in themselves, they're a whole person. They don't, they haven't had any traumas, or if they had any traumas, they've healed them. When they meet a narcissist, they often are not that affected by them, right? They are not like drawn in. They notice that they're a toxic person, and they, say, "Hi, great, thank you, nice to meet you," and they move on. Whereas a codependent and then meets the narcissist and is like enamored with them and thinks, wow, because they're showing off how great they are, the codependent's like, wow, they are really great, and does put them on a pedestal, and does buy into, these grandiose lies that they say about themselves. Whereas a secure person is going to be a little bit more like, well, based on what, they're not going to be so like drawn into the spell that the narcissist is putting out there. So if you're a secure person and you are, meeting someone that's a narcissist, often you'll, think, oh, that person's not for me, or there's something weird going on with that person. Whereas the codependent will be actually enamored, attracted, wanting to be friends with a narcissist, thinking they're really cool. And then it takes time for them, eventually to figure out what's happening there. Sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
people are in a codependent narcissist relationship for years. A lot of times people get married, whatever the case may be. But in a friendship, usually the secure person won't really tolerate the narcissist behavior. Oh, something else a narcissist does that's pretty fail safe. They're always late, and it's very hard for them to say sorry. So if those are two other red flags to look out for that are um, pretty steady. If someone is consistently late, it means, they don't value your time. They only value their own. They want you to wait for them, actually. Because that means that gives them more security about themselves, that they're worthy of being waited for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And you said you gave the different characteristic of a narcissist, and one of them is that because of the environment they grew up in, they learned them, they taught themselves that they have to go look for what they want and get it in whichever way they can get it. But then, for example, a codependent, I can imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, that they might be easier able to look at themselves and say, okay, this is what makes me codependent, and maybe I can work on it, see what I can change. Is that also so with the narcissist, since they have the mentality that whatever I need or whatever I want, I get it, no matter how I have to get it?
So, one of my favorite go-to resources on this topic is Dr. Ramani. She has a YouTube channel. She's a psychologist, and her philosophy
Mm-hmm.
is that narcissists don't really change. Um, it is. She does, like, she says that it's possible with a lot of work, but it's really about self-awareness and desire to be different. It's more likely that a codependent, once they're aware of their own codependency, can work towards their wholeness and their healing versus a narcissist being able to get there. It's not
Mm-hmm.
impossible, but it's less likely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, the narcissist is not that motivated to change their ways. They just keep seeking out narcissistic supply, and they have people in their life that are serving them. So it's very hard for a narcissist to really embrace that diagnosis or that word or that condition.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a hard pill to swallow for a codependent to realize that they're codependent,
Yeah.
but they're more likely to want to make changes and heal. And in both cases,
Yeah.
you're dealing with adult children, like a secure person that grows up and becomes an adult, and you know um, that's not who we're talking about here. This is about approximately 5% of the population might be more narcissistic, and 5% of the population might be more codependent.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just rough numbers, but it is possible for both of those people to get in touch with their inner child, heal their wounds, heal their traumas. There's often PTSD involved in both sides. Beware of the problems that they've had in their life and overcome them, and then become a mature adult that takes responsibility for their actions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What can be their weaknesses from for a narcissist?
Hmm. Um, a narcissist weakness would be compliments. Yeah,
Okay.
they love them. They love them, and you'll see, if it, the way that someone reacts to a compliment, if they're just like, "Ooh, yeah, like bring it on, give me more." In some ways, they're kind of like a black hole. They
Mm-hmm.
have a void inside of them that they constantly need to fill with narcissistic
Okay.
supply, with compliments, with words of encouragement, with words of validation, with
Mm-hmm.
alcohol or drugs. So it's whereas so it's hard for them to fill their own cup so that they can overflow with something like joy and love. They just kind of are
Mm-hmm.
like always sucking them in.
Okay. Okay. Um, you said that you had experience with it as well. Um, can you tell us a little bit about that? What the
Yeah,
experiences were that you were having?
yeah. So after my last relationship, I realized that my partner was a narcissist, and I did a lot of research about narcissism, and then I eventually had to realize my own codependency. And so I've been on a path and a journey to heal my own codependency. And then in along the way, I realized that all the partners that I've had have been varying levels of had varying levels of narcissism. And then I realized, that my parents are in a narcissistic codependent dynamic as well. So that's the way that I was raised to see love and see that pattern of love represented in my life. And so that was the way that
Mm-hmm.
I, exhibited that in my life. So, you know, now that now that I've, really gone through a lot of different um, healing processes and practices, I'm much quicker able to spot a narcissist. It's still like the type of person that I'm attracted to, but now I can spot them more quickly and say no, thank you, and move into like a more secure situation. Um, and um, I don't know what else I can say about it.
Like for example, because you said at one point you realized that the partner that you had was a narcissist. How is it that you realized that? What make, because you were having a relationship with that person, but then afterward, what it is that made you realize, okay, this is the type of relationship I had, and also to go back to your family as well.
So at one point I did confront the person and wanted to have, a conversation about narcissism, and the way that they reacted with was like textbook narcissist. So, at the time I didn't know that much about it. I had just read a couple of things and I had a few clues thinking that this person might be a narcissist. And I was still, wanting to be working things out. I was still in my codependency of like, okay, how can I fix this? How can I make this better? Like there's a problem. I bet I can fix it. Let me do some research. Let me have this brave conversation. So I confronted them. I said, I think that we are like in this narcissist dynamic. They gave me the silent treatment. That's another one. If you've ever been given the silent treatment, that's usually, I mean, it's a childish response to a situation,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you want to
Yeah.
have a conversation with someone and they decide that they are unable to have that conversation with you and they give you the silent treatment, that's a symbol that they're a signal that they're an adult child. They're like wanting to punish you. It's control, it's punishment, it's childish. And so my partner gave me the silent treatment for a while. And I've also in my life been given the silent treatment many times from my mom. When I did something that she didn't like, or I didn't apologize quickly enough or something, I've been given the silent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of another thing to spot out. Um, when I did when I did break up with them, I decided to go no contact, which is something that's recommended to do if you are dating a narcissist. If you've been with a narcissist and you decide to no longer have a relationship with them, going no contact means that you don't talk to them anymore on any platform, like no texting, no calling, no in person. It can be more challenging if you have children with these people, but no contact
Mm-hmm.
is something that's recommended to do. And, often, um, you know, there was another, I guess in my experience, I broke up with the person, and then I read a book called The Power, and it's about narcissistic abuse, emotional abuse, and uh, kind of laid out what to expect if you do break up with a
Mm-hmm.
narcissist. You go no contact, what you can expect, and it's things like try, and basically all of those things ended up happening. So they do something, narcissists do something called hoovering, where they try to get you
Mm-hmm.
back. They might, maybe you block them on your phone, they will try to find you on a different app. Um, they usually have a team of flying monkeys, they're called, who are their allies, who will, try to get information about you from you to report back to them. Again, it's all a form of control, of understanding. They also understand what your buttons are to push, right? What makes you angry, mad, excited, whatever. So they'll figure out ways to have one of their monkeys get you in some way. And basically, all of these things were happening afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At one point, I had a few months after I had broke up with the person. I saw them at an event. We were in a lot of the same communities together. I saw them at an event. I had gone no contact, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to forgive this person and give them a hug. So I went to give them a hug, and they like pinched my like skin on the side of my ribs and gave me like this like awful pinch on the side, and said something nasty to me. And I just like slowly backed away, and that was the last interaction that we had, which was just a good reminder for me. I thought, okay, I can just maybe I can just be light and love and forgiveness, and it's not going to work with that person. I can do it from a distance. I can forgive them in my own like little bubble, but there's just no reason for us to have any face-to-face contact anymore, because their entire mission is to have power and control over me, or over anyone that's
Yeah.
really in their. And if they can't have that,
Mm-hmm.
it's not interesting to them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So they will continue for a long period of time trying to get you back in as a way of saying for them to have the power over you. Okay.
Yeah,
But
a,
then
a,
if there are other,
a lot of
yeah.
narcissists try to stay friendly with their exes. They try to keep their exes in their life,
Mm-hmm.
so that when they do go through a breakup, they have someone who can, join their pity party and give them narcissistic supply while they're going through this, in between moment. Um, there's also
Mm-hmm.
something, a narcissist also will discard someone. So usually it happens around 18 months after being with the person. They'll discard the person
Mm-hmm.
and, kind of promote somebody else. There's always a lot of different people in a narcissist's life, and these people might not know about each other. But they always have a narcissistic supply ready, handy. So there's a lot of lies. There's a lot of, there could be some affairs. There could be things like that, and the hoovering that happens sometimes can look like, like a pretty common way that a narcissist might hoover someone afterwards is on holidays,
Mm-hmm.
like the holiday text, the holiday email, the holiday phone call. Like, hey, I've been, Merry Christmas. I've been thinking about you. Just wanted to see that you're okay, as a way to kind of get you back into their life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. How can you protect yourself from a narcissist?
You have to go no contact. Going to no contact is the only way. I actually, it's also
Okay.
called stonewalling or graywalling. It's basically,
Mm-hmm.
it's not playing into the dramas of the person. So, the person is going to create some situation, drama, whatever, where you might be in a position where you could help them. Again, this is like traditional
Mm-hmm.
narcissist codependent. The codependent wants to help, be a savior, and fix the other person, and the narcissist wants all that good stuff coming their way. So, um,
Yeah.
that could happen, and you just have to resist the temptation to help them one more time, and go no contact. If you're in a group setting where the person is, it's, oh great, it's not having a big drama like, oh, I have to leave. It's like, oh, nice to see you, and I'm going to go now. It's like being very calm, non-reactionary, and really kind of like embodying this a stone. It's really what it is. It's
Mm-hmm.
contact. It's like, really doesn't matter what they do to try to get through to you. You have to be a stone in the way that you react to them. So something that I did um, to help me with this is I actually got a photo of some gray rocks, and I put it as my background screen on my phone. So if I was ever tempted to reach out or tempted to respond, it's like right there on my background, like no contact.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I can imagine that because the narcissist wants power, even if the person is not in a relation, the narcissist is not in a relationship anymore with a person, but then just the fact that they can continue manipulating the situation or continue having the power over the other person gives them more power as well. Because I was thinking that if you have, like you said, your monkeys and other people that you can you put your power over, how come is it that you still want the power over the person that's trying to break away from you?
So the monkeys are an important piece of the puzzle to keep the supply happening, and the monkeys give supply also, but they might be, for whatever reason, loyal to the narcissist, but not like, for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, not a good like mate for them. So that they prefer to keep them in like the monkey category. They're good for getting information from a lot of different people. They're good for planting stories. So they need all of it to keep this
Mm-hmm.
like parade going.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. It's understandable kind of thing. When we're looking at a person that is codependent, how they can break out of that cycle, since it's something that started from small, from what I'm understanding, from what you're saying.
The first thing is awareness. First thing is to understand, oh, like, wow, okay, I do some people pleasing. I do act needy sometimes, or I have anxiety sometimes. Like, first looking at the clues and thinking, like, okay, I could be codependent. What does that look like? Is that maybe something that I am? And being aware of it. And then there's a lot of resources. There's something called, just like there's AA meetings, there's Codependence Anonymous meetings. There's different books about it. There's one-on-one coaching with someone like me that I can offer. There's basically it's a good time if someone's realizing that they might be codependent. It's a good time to look internally and maybe see areas where personal growth might be needed.
Mm-hmm. But then that is when you are aware that you're one. But then how can you, um because with everything it is that you have to be aware that you might need or might want to work on a particular area in your life. But then, for
Yeah.
example, the same as everything else, a codependent person, if you have been like that your whole life, and let's say they don't exactly have been hearing about codependency or reading any information, how it is that they can kind of like become aware that they might be one, because it's something that you have been doing your whole life. It, you internalized it, it's part of you, and it's not always easy for us to realize that, okay, maybe that part of our life, or of our being, we need to kind of like do a little bit different.
I mean, what what something that kind of helped me discover it was my need for external validation. I was able to see, after lots of different incidences, that I was always on a seeking external validation. I wanted other people to tell me, good job, or and get this like feeling of being good enough from someone else. And so that was something that was kind of a pattern that I was seeing, that I was able to see. And now I know that only I can do that for myself. It doesn't really matter what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of it, is like this attitude of like trying to do everything perfectly, to like not caring as much about what other people think. Um, so if you notice that you're very that you are more worried about what other people think than your own happiness and joy, um, that's something. I mean, there's the with codependency, it's often there's some unhappiness there. There's some pain.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so someone who's a seeker, or maybe seeking, because there's something that's not, um, yeah, their life doesn't feel 100% complete. And so often that's why they
Mm-hmm.
seek this person, the narcissist, to complete them. but it's this like feeling of like not good enough or not being enough that
Mm-hmm.
can show up in a lot of different ways. It could show up as being a workaholic. It could show up as eating a lot. It could show up in all these kind of different coping mechanisms. But usually there is kind of like this root of unworthiness or unhappiness or pain or sadness that you know
Mm-hmm.
they might not want to look at, but it is there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You as a coach working with them, kind of on an average, how long that process takes from understanding what type of person you are, and what are the different aspects that you have to work on when when you are a codependent.
Um, Anywhere from 3 to 6 months is a good amount of
Okay.
time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what it is that you just do with them when it comes to you as a coach.
We go through scenarios. We do some mindfulness things to help relax and get more centered and more clear. We do some emotional release, so clearing the basement of our emotional traumas. So
Mm-hmm.
we clear what's happened. We listen to what's happening, and so that we can have um, really good plan moving forward of how to take care of ourselves the best way, love ourselves the most, so that we don't seek that from the outside world. So it's an
Mm-hmm.
individual
Did
plan for
you?
each
Mhm.
person.
Okay, okay. And did you experience that maybe for some it might be a little bit more difficult, or they might have tend to fall back in their old patterns?
Yeah, sure. Those are possibilities that could happen. Yeah, it's easy to fall into old patterns. But if you're motivated to change, you can.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lot
Yeah.
easier with support and encouragement and accountability.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, because once you go to a coach, a therapist, or whoever to for you to work on yourself, it's because you already wants to change. So you will put effort in it to keep on learning every day how to do things differently.
Right.
So that is right. That is right. Um, it's I was almost going to say it's a pity, but I can't. I don't want to use that word, but because you said it's a cycle, and for example sometimes it's starting by the parents because they're not giving the love and attention to the child, and then the child might turn into a narcissist. And I was thinking that how we can break that cycle, even for example now that we know about what a narcissist is, and maybe even codependency, how it is that we can maybe break the cycle of maybe parents doing things differently.
Well, there's a saying like hurt people. So, if hurt people can do their own internal work to not be hurt anymore and to be to release that hurt, move on, and then procreate, um, we're going to be better off as a society.
Yeah.
Um, it's this kind of like rushing that we have and these expectations to have this certain timing of things that it is important to do your own internal work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I find that indeed important, and to work on yourself first before you go in any type of relationship, and actually to start being honest with yourself as well, that if you know that how to put it, how you are, or the characteristic that you're showing, that it's kind of like working against you, that maybe you have to start reflecting on how who you be, and maybe that you might have to look at yourself internally, and what for effect it has on other people as well, and then maybe if there is something that you might have to do differently, and not always putting it on other people. Um, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, really for
Mm-hmm.
codependence, it's about putting yourself first. It's that's really the work for codependence, is realizing that you matter, putting yourself first and making decisions that, you know, learning to like listen, learning to, a lot of times we've bypassed our own bodies wants and needs for the sake of other pleasing other people. So it's like unwinding that and learning to listen to our own bodies so that we can get the wisdom that we need. Like, am I tired? Am I hungry? Am I sleepy? Am I thirsty? Am I excited? Whatever. It's not based on what's going on outside of us. It's like actually being able to like tune into what's happening in our centers so that we can then act from that place. Whereas in the past, we've like ignored this whole thing of ourselves and been like, where's the bright shiny objects outside of us that we want to like have a
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And even though we are in how you call it, like a rush world, that everything have to go fast, 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 but I finding too that there is more help, or there are more coaches in the world, and especially specialized on different types, and that are there to help you. So it isn't that you have to sit there, and there is nobody or nothing to be able to assist you, coach you, or help you. So
exactly right. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
definitely. Yeah, a lot of times people feel very alone in their problems, right? And yeah, I guess, there is help, there is support for pretty much any kind of problem that someone's having or feeling like they're not understood. There's definitely been someone who's been there and can help get you out of that hole.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And that we need to start talking about it as well, and not just keeping it inside, and like you said, thinking that there's nobody else going through it. But yeah, you must find one or two that going through the same. It might be some things might be a little bit different, but in general, yes, you will find at least one or two person going through it as well. But it's us that have to be open and willing to talk about what's going on with us. Yeah.
Yes, and like, and particularly for narcissists and codependents who are so focused on the external, it's like even a more challenging condition to share like the internal things that are happening, like I'm upset right now or whatever, because we want to manipulate the situation, we want to people please, we want everyone to think, oh, we're happy all the time, we're likable, we want to have friends, we want all these things. And so it's learning to
Mm-hmm.
it's really relearning vulnerability on both sides. It's like trusting that you can be vulnerable and you can show emotion and you can still have support.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I think on the Caribbean and the island here, we have a long way to go. It's not so easy for us to even say that we angry, or we sad, and the reason that we sad, we not there yet, that we feeling comfortable with sharing that, and the least to go and look for somebody to help us with that. But I'm positive that at one time that we will reach there.
Yes, I hope so.
So mhm. Yeah, it's not for everybody easy to realize that, and realizing that you can open up yourself and look for help in whichever area you need. So,
Yeah.
okay, so Dana, we reach at the end, and I would really like to thank you for the information that you shared and the experiences that you had and how you worked on it. As a closing, is there any tip or last thing that you want to share with us?
Sure, I'll share my favorite quote, which I think is relevant. It's "Don't copy the world. Be a different person with a fresh newness in all you do and think."
Thank you. And before we go, we're just getting a question. How do we encourage men to reach out for help? That's a good one.
Well, if you figure that out, let me
Most
know.
of the time it's females.
Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Most of the
um,
time it's indeed females, but men are really close up and they thinking that it have to be the brave one, the one that have to provide and not they can't show that they need help.
so also this question, this is a very codependent question. You're trying to figure out how can you help someone outside of yourself. It's not your job. It's not your job. It's not your work. It's not your dragon. Work on your own problems. Everyone has some.
Yeah. But then the person might be thinking, yeah, but then how can I have a relationship if I noticing that something going on and I can't help it? But yeah, like you
If you
said,
work
it's their
on
own problem.
yourself, if you work on yourself and you change your patterns and your karma and your energy, you'll attract the right person that has done their work.
Mhm.
You don't have to fix
Yeah,
everyone. Okay.
yeah, that is true. Well, Dana, thank you so much. And thank you for the information. And mindful elevation viewers, if you have any questions, you can always still send them, and Dana will be more than willing to answer them. So, and I would like to thank you for spending your time here with us. And Dana as well, thank you for your time and for the information that you shared with us, making us more empowered about what narcissist and a codependent is and what we can do about it.
Awesome. And if people would like to get in touch with me, you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Dana K. Humphrey. You can always send me a message, or you can also find me on my website, which is danahumphrey.com.
Yes. And your memoir, you said, is when it's coming out?
November 4th.
Oh, nice, nice. And then
Yeah.
we can find it on, where can we find that?
You'll be able to find more information on my website, but it'll be available on all the places you can buy books.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Great. Well, thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Bye.